Will the latest shooting influence the upcoming election? I spoke to Jacob Kirkegaard. He's a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. He doesn't expect voter turnout to be affected.
I expect turnout to be high. I mean, I think there is a very clear trend in pretty much any election event in Europe since the Brexit vote, whether it was the Italian referendum, the Dutch elections, the regional elections in Germany, etc. Participation rates were up quite significantly.
The shooting in Paris happening less than 72 hours before the first round of polls open. Talk to me about this incident. How is it expected to change how voters vote? What's going to be the impact of this? And there have been some charges that there are concerns that perhaps one of the candidates might try and exploit this.
What it does is, of course, that it shifts, at least very momentarily, the focus back onto security, terrorism, because of the background of the shooter, clearly also immigration. Which may very well galvanize support for Marine Le Pen. But at the same time, she, of course, runs the risk of sort of overextending, being seen to exploit a tragic event that could backfire. I have to say, given the, first of all, that France is a country that in the last couple of years have really seen some terrible, terrible, large-scale terrorist incidents with a large number of innocent people killed. We have to keep this in perspective. I don't want to minimize the loss of one life, but this was one policeman. I have to say that at the end of the day, I don't think this event is going to actually have that big an impact, other than lightly drive participation up even further. And given the high stakes in France, and the, frankly, rather sort of, bipolar, either, really, really different potential outcomes, no, I think participation will be very high.
You could have a far-right candidate facing off against a far-left candidate. The polls are just so all over the place. Talk to me about that.
It is quite remarkable that, first of all, you have the two traditional mainstream parties, the Republicans and the Socialists. The socialist candidate is completely out of the picture, and the Republican previous front-runner, François Fillon, is obviously now significantly down in the polls because of his personal scandals. So you have essentially the outsider, Marine Le Pen, and then the other outsider, Mélenchon, and then the complete upstart, which is Emmanuel Macron leading the pack. So it is a historically completely unprecedented situation.
Who do you think is going to make it on to the second round?
I think, first of all, it is extremely open. It's within the margin of error. But if you believe the polls, then you have to say that Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen has a little bit of an edge, a few percentage points. And so therefore, I think they are likely to make it. But at the same time, if you have very high participation, traditionally, that tends to favor the mainstream candidates. So you could see François Fillon come back, giving you potentially Fillon, Le Pen, or Fillon versus Macron. So no, there really are a number of options.
Jacob, always a delight talking to you. Thanks so much for your observations.